I'm Darren Morton.
I'm Simon Matthews. This is Lift,
The Lifestyle Medicine podcast where we dive into the science of health and well-being.
Hello, Professor Morton. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, brother, on the other side of the planets. How's life? What have you been doing lately?
Life is very good. Well, I'll tell you what I have been doing lately. I've been beginning to join in a local sport here in Madrid. In fact, it's very popular in Spain. It's not originally a Spanish sport. It comes from South America, but it has been here in Spain for quite some time now. And I don't know whether you know what I'm referring to. It's called Padel, Padel.
You want to be careful about stepping into those, I've heard.
Padel.
Padel. Tell me, what is, I'm intrigued. Padel.
No, puddle. Padel.
Padel.
No, not Padel. Padel.
All right, tell us. What is it? I'm dying to know.
So it's a racket sport, and it's a little like tennis. It's a little like pickleball. It's played on a court. The paddle court is about 10 meters by 20 meters, so it's about. I think that makes it maybe. Actually, I don't know the dimensions in comparison to a tennis court. It's smaller than a tennis court, and I think it's bigger than a pickleball court by a little bit. Typically played on a court with walls, so you can play shots off the walls as well. Typically a 4-player game, although you can play 2, and played with short-handled rackets that have a high-density foam filling rather than strings like a tennis racket, and played with balls that look like tennis balls, but are apparently, of course, just a little bit smaller. So they're special Padel balls.
Special balls. I'm actually semi-banned from racket sports. Darren and rackets don't play well together. In fact, I tried a bit of doubles tennis, and I end up on one particular serve, which I went with all my might. I managed to get the ball squarely in the back of the head of my teammate, not my opponent. And so
I read about that, and then Rafael Nadal was in hospital for about 3 weeks after that.
Not quite. But then I thought I'd redeem myself. I played a game with my wife and hit her in the back, and then I hit a good friend in the back of the calf muscle. So this says a lot about my ability. So I haven't been a big proponent or participator in racket sports. But so tell me what's so good about this one? What's exciting you?
Well, there are lots of things actually. First of all, there's just there are courts everywhere, so there's a real vibe around padel here. In fact, there's a smartphone app which apparently has a market capitalization in the billions, and the smartphone app links players in local areas. It enables you to book courts. It enables you to join games. So one of the attractions of it is you don't even need to have 4 people to play with. You can just think, oh, I want to play a game. Go on this app, find a game that's being played in your local area, and say, yeah, I'll join that game. So instantly you meet probably 3 new people. Court hire is ridiculously inexpensive. So even right here in the centre of Madrid, where real estate values are very high, you can rent a paddle court for 1 hour for €5. So that's it. Once you've purchased your racket, that's really the only expense. So I think the things that make it attractive are that it's outdoors, and here there is blue sky most of the time. So you get you get blue sky, you get outdoors, you get meeting people, you get inexpensive, and even for incompetent racket sports players, it's
Why are you
very
looking?
easy.
Why are you staring? You're staring me in the eyes right now. I can see.
It's very easy to learn. It's a very,
Mm,
very easy game to learn. So you can enter at any level, still have a good time, regardless of how little or long you've been playing. There's a
mm.
there's a bunch of things that I think make it very attractive.
Tell me before I got a question for you about this. But how similar? Many years ago, I went to the United States and I had someone there
Hmm.
that says you need to come and play a game of pickleball, and I thought I don't even know what that is. Like that sounds a bit risque for me. I'm not quite sure who came up with that name. But anyway, he said no, it's a bit like squash, sort of, but not really, and a bit like badminton, and you just can't go in the kitchen, which is the front little area. And I'm thinking, wow, this is like way beyond me. But anyway, I've
Yeah.
noticed
Okay.
this phenomenon of pickleball. Is there similarities between the two sports?
I think there are, and I'm not a pickleball player. Although I do know a US. I think I've got this right. A US Masters champion pickleball player. He's like a
Wow.
he's like a national pickleball champion. In fact, you
Mm.
probably know him too. Um, I don't want to out him here unless you think we I mean, this,
Hey, you're
it's
not
it's a
saying
bad
bad things.
it's a badge of honour, isn't it?
It
Well,
is.
it's John Bennigus, who's married
Really?
to Susan Bennigus. Yeah,
Susan
the
Vinegar.
the
Yeah. Wow.
ACLM president. Yeah, yeah. So he's a
Wow.
he's a national pickleball champion. Yeah, exactly,
Mm.
exactly. So I think pickleball I think probably has those similar sort of snub-sized rackets. The short-handled racket played on a similarly small court. Um, there's no kitchen in Puddle, so I have no idea what you're talking about there. So that's
Like the
obviously a
front
difference.
sort of 6 or 7 feet to the net. You're not allowed to step in there unless the ball's already
Oh,
bounced in there. So yeah, they call it the kitchen. I don't know where it got that
oh,
name.
okay. No, no, that's it. That's definitely not a
Where you
Puddle
get
rule.
pickles from.
Okay. But yeah, look. Beyond that, I think there's probably I think there's probably quite a few similarities. It's scored just like tennis as well. So you
Mm,
go, 15 love, 30 love, and so on.
mm.
Um, yeah, yeah. But it's
So
just,
here's
it's a lot of fun.
a lot of fun. And this is my question for you. So pickleball as a sport has gone crazy. In fact, we now
Mm,
have some
mm,
of our players here in Australia at my local university. They have a pickleball meetup twice a week, and they all play it and love it. And it's really fascinating to me to see phenomenons like this just launch. And it sounds like the same for you, your sport in Europe there. What are the secrets to that? I'm really intrigued because I'm actually not into the racket sports, as you've already heard, for good reason. But I'm interested in another. It's really what I would describe as another phenomenon, an activity phenomenon, and that is the park run. Now, Simon, have you done a park run before?
yeah. I've done a park run. And
Mm,
interestingly, park run is not here in Spain. It's in a number of European countries, including Italy. But I would have to take a 2-hour flight to be able to do a park run there, so I don't do
that's
that.
a long way.
But it's not yet here in Spain.
Yeah, well, intriguingly enough, I thought it was a worldwide phenomenon, but it's not that prevalent in the United States yet as yet.
Uh-huh.
But it was
Uh-huh.
actually it kicked off. It's the 20th year anniversary of Park Run, and for those listeners who aren't familiar with what it's all about, a young fellow who was actually doing it pretty tough. He started to do some jogging, and he found that really helpful for his mental health and his physical health. And he was unemployed at the time, and so he actually just said, "Hey," to a group of my friends. He was in London, the United Kingdom. There, he said, "Why don't we get together and just do a 5K run in the local park?" And it was the Bushy Park in London, and the name of this gentleman's Paul Sinton Hewitt. Anyway, he had 13 people show up, and then the next week there was more and more, and this has just spiraled to now there are over 2,200 park runs all
Yeah,
around the world. And we
park
actually have
run
I have
was
a park
born.
run at my university here, the Avondale University Park Run, and I can tell you, it is just absolutely fantastic. It ticks all the boxes for me. We have
Mm.
in my local one, and we're in a small rural town. There are about 100 people each week that front up on the Saturday morning, And the motto is it's free for everyone forever. And so people come along, you can register online. It's timed, but most people are just out enjoying life with each other outdoors, walking dogs. And it seems to me that there's these things that just take off,
Yeah.
like the pickleball, like the padel, like the park runs. And what would be really interesting to discuss is what are the ingredients? What are the secrets of success? What is it that makes something like that really go? Because I think we can learn a lot from that, from a lifestyle medicine perspective.
Absolutely.
Lift is supported by the Lift Project, an educational adventure where you learn science-based ways to lift your mood and your life. The Lift Project is lifting lives around the globe, in healthcare settings, workplaces, schools, universities and communities. To find out more, visit theliftproject.global.
It's a fascinating question, isn't it? And the figures or the statistics on Padel are extraordinary. So it's the second most popular sport here in Spain. The most popular is no surprise.
Yes.
Football. It's growing rapidly in the world. I think it's now played in more than 90 countries. There's 25 million players around the world. And there's some other interesting things about it that just make it super attractive as well. Rallies go much longer. Interestingly, there's a lot more women players in padel than there are, say, in
why
tennis.
would that be? What do you think would
Well,
explain
I think there's a bunch of things that go on with both padel and park run, and for that matter, pickleball. Some that immediately come to mind for me are that it ticks the box for being outdoors. So being able to be outside and enjoy being outside. It ticks the box for social connection because in both of those, both padel and pickleball, you get to often meet new people. You interact with people in a friendly, social kind of way. You get to enjoy conversation. No doubt you laugh many times along the way as well. I think it ticks the box. It certainly ticks the box for feeling like you've worked out, feeling like you've done something. I set my last time I played. I've got a padel setting on my Garmin watch, which I set, because it's an outdoor activity, the GPS tracks it. So afterwards, I got to see a map of me moving over the court, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. All this kind of backwards and forwards movement around the court.
I don't know if you've seen the cyclists. There's a little bit of a thing that's got on Strava where cyclists will map out a course. And it can be like a couple of 100-kilometer course that makes a picture. And then when you actually upload, so I'm wondering what picture you paint whilst you're playing, running around the court there. Something to be intentional about. If you get bored, if the competitors aren't competitive enough for you, there you go. I think
mine best resembled a Jackson Pollock abstract painting.
Yeah, there you go.
So I think that the movement and activity is part of the reason for success, and a really big one, and I think this is probably true for both padel, is it is super easy. So padel has rules. I mean, park run, I guess, doesn't really have any rules. I think maybe don't trip other people over, but beyond that, there's no rules. Padel has rules, a little like tennis, but they're very easy to understand and very easy to apply. And it's an easy game to join in with, regardless of your skill and experience level. Yeah. I think all those factors in both of those activities just make them super, super appealing to people.
Yeah, I like this. I think, and I agree with you, I think the simplicity of it all, the simplicity of turning up on the morning and doing 5 kilometers, and it's well mapped out. It's not that you have to think too much about it and you just get involved. So I think that's in fact, there's been some studies done on the park run phenomenon and why is it that this thing has launched and taken off as it has. And that's one of the key things is they talk about there's this simplicity to it.
Yeah.
But there's also a consistency to it as well. So you know that every week, that's where it is. That's when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
builds in that sort of, that you gain that momentum because of that.
Yeah. 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 Pickleball also featured on the Dan Buettner Blue Zones show on Netflix. You might remember as well,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
particularly when he was focused on the Loma Linda area in that show. So again, I think all of these reasons that we're talking about are reasons that people love to get involved,
Mm.
and also why there are so many people getting involved.
Mm.
It's just so straightforward. I think
Yeah.
at
And
another level too, that all these things. I mean, we can think about all these things that we're talking about: outdoors, social connection, exercise and activity, ease, being inexpensive. In many ways, they're all satisfying needs that we have. You know,
mm,
we have needs for social connection. We have needs for activity and movement. We have needs for being outdoors and being able to look up and see a blue sky and so on. So when you can put so many ticks next to so many boxes so easily,
mm,
and it costs next to nothing to
mm.
participate. There's a really powerful sense of satisfaction of need at an individual level, I think,
Yeah.
that goes on
Yeah.
there.
It's a winning formula. One of the other things that I love about parkrun in particular is that there's this inclusivity, but it's also there's a diversity there as well. And one thing I don't think that we do well enough in our societies, particularly in Western societies, is this intergenerational thing. And what
Yeah,
I love going
yeah,
there on in the morning, and there you are standing there with 100 people. Some of them are mature and then there are kids there, and there's just this feel of like people connecting, people chatting, people talking, and they almost there's like it's almost a celebration of people. Like they actually, the first thing they start with at the beginning is the race official will get up and say, "Hey, we are so excited to see you all here today. It's great to have you here. Do we have any visitors?" And so the first thing they ask for is, "Where are people from?" And someone puts their hand up, "I'm from, so and so, and I'm from here," and everyone gives them a round of applause. It's so great to have you here. And then they ask this, and I think this builds in the achievement piece. Even though it's a voluntary thing that you're doing, and it's, but there's this. What happens is every time you do a park run, you record another park run, and you get to tally how many you've done. And
yeah,
so it's not
yeah,
about performance level, but for example, someone might raise their hand and they're a centenarian. They've just done, this is their 100th park run.
they're hundreds.
Everyone's like,
Yeah,
"Yay, well done." So it's really, it's a beautiful thing.
yeah,
Honestly,
yeah,
it's celebrating. We're all coming together,
yeah,
and people feel welcomed.
yeah,
They feel at home there, and they feel that people care about them. So I
yeah,
think that
yeah,
once again, that speaks to that need that we all have. And
yeah,
so I
yeah,
think that's
yeah,
another really important part of the
yeah.
ingredient.
And there are some other, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about what else goes on that makes padel so appealing. And I played tennis as a kid. I played tennis. I played squash actually as a young adult.
Mm,
And in fact, when I was playing squash, which was shortly after I finished my first degree at university, that's when I met my wife Lynn. We used to play squash together with a couple of other people. That was the fittest I had ever been in my life when I was playing squash. I'm pleased to say too that I'm approaching that level again right now, but that's a story for another time. But when I was playing squash, I was super fit. And then I played tennis a little bit as an adult when I had young kids, because they used to play tennis. And I haven't picked up a racket of any sort for, I would say, 15 years. And I walked to the store that sells the paddle rackets. I bought one. I walked onto a court. I started playing, and it was that simple. Um,
mm,
yeah, very, very easy. Also here, so the particular courts that I go to are they're only about 10 minutes away on the metro. So I can walk to the metro station, go for, in fact, less than 10 minutes, probably 6 or 7 minutes. There, I can also walk up there really easily along this beautiful street. So it's about bit over a 20-minute walk to the courts. Or there's a share bike system all through Madrid. I can jump on a bike, pedal up there in no time. So all of these things increase the appeal.
Yes,
they just make it that much more enjoyable to take part in. The courts themselves are in a big sporting complex. So when you walk into this complex, there's people playing outdoor table tennis. There's people, practicing their racket hits up against a wall. There's an outdoor pool there. There's also tennis courts there. I mean, there's just you walk in quite literally to a hive of activity, which also I think adds to the kind of appeal and the energy that sits behind it all.
It makes you feel like you're in the land of the living. That's correct. Yeah,
exactly right.
It's interesting. I remember this gentleman when I went to the US who said, "Come on, you've got to play pickleball." One of his selling points to me was that anyone can play this. He said, "I got beat just the other day by a 70-year-old lady," and I'm like, "Okay, that's what I need for my self-esteem." But let's go. And I think that it's that simplicity, it's that inclusivity, being able to bring people together and meet all those needs that we have. I've got a friend who's actually was doing a master's with us at the moment, master's degree, and she created a program called Coast Trek in Australia, which was all about trying to get ladies hiking in nature, embarking upon some sort of challenging event. So they do like a 30 or 60 kilometre hike along the coast. And anyway, we talking with her, I said, well, it's taken off. They've done a remarkable work. She's an incredible lady. And they've had thousands, like literally tens of thousands of participants through these events. And I asked her the same thing, what's been the secret? What's the secret of success? Why has this taken off? And she related a lot of the things that we're discussing now. It's physical activity, it's social connectedness, it's getting outdoors. But one thing she also added in there is that she created this to raise money for a worthwhile cause. And so the ladies in preparation for their event, they get sponsorship and they've raised money. And in fact, Di, who's the name of the lady, I can mention her because this is all good stories about her. She's actually, they've raised tens of millions of dollars for charities. She actually won an Order of Australia medal for her work in that space. It's interesting to me, Park Run is a volunteer-driven movement. And these are people who want to give back in some kind of way. And in fact, each week, people get to put their hand up to volunteer.
To be a timer or a marshal.
That's correct. And if you volunteer, you get ticked as if you've actually done the event too. So for those who are trying to get up to, have completed 50 or 100 or 200, it doesn't detract from that. Yeah. But I do wonder whether that's part of the success of this too. People feel that, they're part of this international thing, but they're having a local impact. They're contributing to the lives of other people.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's reminiscent for me of the research around this. And one piece of research in particular that always sticks in my mind is the research that shows the relative benefits that we get from receiving assistance and giving assistance. And we certainly, there's no question that if we're in need and we receive assistance, it gives us a bit of a boost. It's good for us. But regardless of whether you're in need and you give assistance, you get a big boost to your own well-being. So there's a very, very powerful underlying argument for suggesting that doing things, engaging in activities that don't immediately benefit you but do benefit other people is a great way to boost your own health and well-being. And we need to, clearly we need to be careful there. We need to make sure that people aren't doing that to an extent where they're then starting to ignore or deny their own basic needs and so on. However, it's useful to have that discussion, I think, and to recognise the value in giving to others in a way that benefits others.
This is a space that really interests me. Over a decade ago now, I had a PhD student who's now a doctor, Paul Rankin. But we actually did some work where we were using volunteers to administer health programs within communities. And literally this proliferated. We had people running these health programs all over the place throughout the United States and New Zealand and Australia. And it was, what was fascinating to me is how passionate and how engaged the facilitators of these programs were. It's not like they were getting any monetary value out of it, but they were really, really engaged. And some of our research, and we published on this, what we found is that the results that they could achieve for their participants were actually comparable to what a clinician would get in a clinical setting.
Yeah, wow.
So even though these people, these volunteers, didn't have any health background or training necessarily, they were just good at bringing people together and helping to facilitate an initiative like this was just so impactful. And I'm going to get on my soapbox a minute. I actually think there's a really powerful opportunity to engage volunteers as social capital. I think about Australia, for example. We have an aging population. A lot of the baby boomers, as we refer to them, they're very give back orientated. They want to contribute. And I think that models like Park Run and others that like it could really benefit and have incredible impact by engaging people who want to give back. Because as you pointed out, it's good for us. We rise by lifting others.
Absolutely. And that idea that you just mentioned of the benefit, the clinical benefit that can accrue, this is a little bit of an aside, but I was that clinician. I was that psychologist who used to sit in an office talking to people about depression and anxiety. And, more than 15 years ago now, even more, 17, 18 years ago, was when I started reading about the benefits, for example, of exercise and activity on mood, the benefits of nutrition on mood, and so on. And that's what tumbled me into the whole realm of lifestyle medicine, a recognition that that clinical encounter could be so much more. And in fact, in many ways, it could be, I'm going to invent a word here, de-clinicalized. We don't need necessarily to have intensive clinical encounters all the time in order to see improvements in health and well-being. Pickleball, park run, padel, volunteering. I mean, they're all examples of things that contribute significantly to our overall health and well-being, and leave me and other clinicians out of the picture.
Well, we don't want to do you out of a job either. but what can we learn from this? So when we look at these exemplars of movements that have quite organically grown. I know that when Paul first ran his park run in bushy lands, wherever it was, he would have no idea that 20 countries would be offering this same event. So there wasn't even an intentionality about this. It was just like, let's do something good. And then all of a sudden it just proliferates. Yeah. What can we learn from these movements from the perspective of lifestyle medicine?
It's a great question. I think one clear thing to me seems to be the idea of the importance of understanding and recognising the underlying need. That all of these things are successful because at some level they're satisfying really deep needs and really deep longings that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
And I think that's a significant part of it. It's certainly a significant part of the behaviour change puzzle. So, the most successful, most sustainable behavioural changes are those that really are linked strongly for the individual to an underlying need. That they have. Because then it gives it meaning and purpose and value and so on.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's one lesson. I think we talk about in terms of lifestyle medicine and movement and exercise and activity. We talk about things like 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity per week, and some strength training in there as well. It's very easy to let your mind slip into a default mode there and go, okay, that means I've got to get on the treadmill 5 times for 30 minutes a time, and I've got to go to the gym twice a week to lift weights. And that will certainly satisfy that prescription, but it's not the only way of satisfying that prescription. So part of the lesson in lifestyle medicine, I think, is to keep our thinking lifted from prescriptions, not settle into the same kind of routine or identical prescriptions that we might hear, and be able to move and shift and adopt to the needs that an individual has, and to be able to encourage them into doing things that are going to satisfy those needs for them.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing I love seeing at our park run, sometimes I'll do the park run and then I do a bit of a cool down to half lap, and then so you sort of catch up to the tail on the second time around. And they always have a nominated person who is the tail walker, because their motto is that no one gets left behind. No one comes last. And I think it's about seeing people, and I think it speaks once again to that need that we have for connection, for feeling valued. I think these are wonderful case studies in just seeing what works. They're simple, they're easy to implement, they're meaningful for us, they speak to our needs, and they're a wonderful thing. So I would say, if you are living in Australia or any of the 23 countries that offer parkrun, then get along. Whenever we go travelling with my family, or even this weekend, I'm heading up to Brisbane to do a presentation. I always look up the local parkrun, because I love fronting up and then going, "Are there any visitors here?" And I go, "Yes, that's me," and they clap. It's the only time people applaud. It's like it's a thing of beauty. So if you have the opportunity, get along to a park run if they're in your area. Hey, if there's not one in your area, think about setting one up. And Simon, you want to give a plug for your sport?
Yeah, absolutely. If you live in Spain or one of the 90 countries in which padel is played, join in. It's very, very easy. It costs next to nothing. It's a whole lot of fun. You will meet people. If you happen to be listening to the podcast in Madrid, then hit me up for a game. Let's go and meet on a padel court.
Well,
Darren,
I was going to say, I'll play a game with you, and I'll hit you during the game, likely. So I apologise in advance if that is a thing.
And I'm just starting to, in my mind, I'm just starting to pull together, perhaps an entrepreneurial idea for us leading out of this conversation. Padel run.
There we go.
Padel run.
Bring the world together. Love it. Let's do it.
Lift is presented by Simon Matthews and Darren Morton. It's sponsored by the Lift Project and supported by Avondale University. Music provided by Pixabay. If you have a question or a topic you would like to hear more about, send us an email to podcast@theliftproject.global. The Lift Project. Lift your mood, lift your life.